This is the Kia EV6, one of the most anticipated electric cars of 2021. And in this video, I'm going to tell you guys why this actually may be the best mid-size electric SUV on the market today. Before we kick off today's video, I just want to say huge thanks to today's video sponsor, Zaptec, with their Zaptec Go home charger. The Zaptec Go is a small, stylish, and sleek home charger that can charge up to 22 kilowatts. If you want to purchase one, you'll find a link in the description box down below. And if you live in Norway, use the discount code ZAPRIFA for 10% off the price. Let's start things off with the exterior styling. And guys, you want to check out the full exterior and interior tour where we'll go through everything in detail. That video will be linked in the description box down below. But the exterior styling of this car was something I first wasn't too impressed about when I saw it in photos, but in person, especially in white and on these 20-inch wheels, I do think it looks very nice, super stylish, and I do like the swoopy lines. It just works in real life and isn't too impressive in photos, in my opinion. You may disagree. This is the GT line, so the top trim on the long-range all-wheel drive version. There will also be a GT version with over 500 horsepower in the future. But as things are now in late 2021, this is the top model. And I do like the exterior styling. I like the swoopy lines, the fastback shape. It looks more like a big station wagon than, you know, an SUV crossover, but it is the same size as something like a Mustang Mach-E or, you know, the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which this is closely related to. They're both built on the eGMP platform, which is, you know, the Hyundai, Kia, Genesis fully electric platform on the 800-volt architecture. So it's about the same size as the competition, also the Volkswagen ID4 and Audi Q4 e-tron and Skoda Enyaq. But I think this may just be the most stylish and the best looking, especially from the front. You guys can see those cool headlights with those sharp DRLs on the bottom and on the top where they meet at the middle, just like, you know, a knife's edge. I think it looks very stylish. Also with the new Kia logo, which looks much better than it has done previously. I think this car, you know, brings Kia a little bit more upmarket than other models that have been available here in Europe. I know all across the Atlantic, you guys have been getting, you know, Kia models that, well, haven't been available here, like big SUVs, and also the Kia Stinger. I don't think it's officially sold here in Norway either. And also the rear end may be a little bit controversial with that light bar that wraps around the rear end. And also in photo and video, it doesn't look impressive, but in person, I think it looks much, much better. Here on the left side, no, the right side, we do have the charge port also. But again, guys, if you want to check out the full exterior and interior detail, I will have that linked in the description box down below. But, you know, just walking around, showing you guys this car in silhouette, I think it may just be the best looking mid-size electric SUV on the market today. When you first step inside the interior of the Kia EV6, it isn't as impressive to the touch or to the eye as its corporate cousin, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Materials nice, aren't as premium or as nice as they are in the Ioniq 5. That interior is quite impressive when it comes to materials and build quality. This is nice, it's just not as nice as the Ioniq 5. And also the visual impression, to my opinion, isn't as impressive. Where the Ioniq 5 has a very special interior, this, though nice, it's a little bit more bland and maybe mainstream. But after living with it for a week, I think the ergonomics in this are better than in the Ioniq 5. So I'm going to get to the similarities first. We have the dual 12.3-inch screen layout. You know, you have one in front of the driver and then you have one for the infotainment system. And then you have the steering wheel mounted button controls, which is pretty much the same as in the Ioniq 5. Also the placement of the HVAC below the infotainment screen. And you have a lot of USB and USB-C connectors, you know, scattered around the cabin. You have a large center console here with storage beneath it. You have a wireless charging pad. Though there are a few differences from the Ioniq 5. First amongst is the placement of the shifter, which I find much better sitting here. Though not the nicest thing to engage with quality-wise, I do like the placement. You also have a wireless charging pad right here, which is very nice and practical. And then here you have some shortcut buttons for your, you know, heated steering wheel, heated seats, which I do appreciate. And then a trick that may have been actually in the Ioniq 5 that I didn't know about is if you press a button here, you can change it from the HVAC settings to your volume, to your shortcuts for your infotainment system. So after living with this car for a week, I just find it a little bit easier and more intuitive than the Ioniq 5s. And also these seats fit me much better than the Ioniq 5. One of my biggest complaints with the Ioniq 5 for my body type was that the seats just weren't comfortable. Something about the lumbar support just felt like it was poking me in the back. After doing a few thousand kilometers in this car, these seats are very nice, and overall it's a really nice interior. Not the best quality wise, but among there at the top, and ergonomically wise, it's one of the very best. Out on the road, the EV6 drives a lot like its corporate cousin, the Ioniq 5. Where it is different though is in the suspension tuning. It is much firmer than the Ioniq 5. So over this bump here, maybe you can see from the camera shake that it is a lot firmer than the Ioniq 5. In both cars I've driven on 20-inch wheels. This is on 20-inch wheels. The Ioniq 5 I drove was on 20-inch wheels. But I actually don't find it uncomfortable because I think the balance between firmness, ride and handling, sportiness is better executed in this car. But that all comes down to personal preference. If you like that super soft and supple ride, which I actually do, the Ioniq 5 is better. But maybe that car's a bit too soft for dynamic driving. But where this car is let down is by its steering. It's lifeless, it's numb, it just feels super artificial. So it's not actually fun to drive, though it is firm. And also another thing that I don't like about this car, that I don't remember the Ioniq 5 having issue with, is the throttle response. So once you're underway, it's fine. It's not the best calibrated, but from a standstill, there's this delay that, you know, you have to dig into the pedal. It just feels odd, especially for being an EV. One of the hallmarks of an electric car is that, you know, immediate throttle response. Drive a Tesla, drive a Polestar, drive just about any other EV than this, you're gonna get that immediate throttle response. Here they've just, you know, programmed it out of the driving experience. I don't know why. Putting the car into sport does improve things, but it always defaults back to normal mode. So you have to, you know, hit the steering wheel button here to change the driving mode. But still in sport, it is not the best. You have some pedals here on the steering wheel also where you can, you know, adjust the regen. So you press on the right side to have less regen. So you can go all the way to 0 where you have no regen, it just coast, and then you can go into 1, 2, 3, and then it's quite aggressive. Or you can go one click more and it goes into max, and it's in a mode called I pedal, which is like one pedal driving. It will come to a complete stop like this, but it takes a little bit of time. And there, I don't know if you guys saw that, if you can see my foot here, but diving into the pedal, you just have that initial delay. It just feels weird. But one pedal driving is a nice welcome feature in this car, but again, it's not one of the best calibrated. It's just a bit weird. There's this delay going off the throttle, and then it starts braking. So the Polestar 2 and also the Tesla Model 3 and Y and every other Tesla does it much better than this. But the fact that it has one pedal driving is a feature not all EVs have. I do commend that. But other than that, on the motorway, it's quiet. As I said, it is comfortable. It's generally a very nice driving experience, and I would put it against the top in this class of vehicle. The EV6 will be offered in quite a few different versions, starting with the entry-level model with a 58 kWh battery pack, rear-wheel drive, and 170 horsepower. That car will have a WLTP range of a little bit less than 400 kilometers, and here in Norway, it will start at 420,000 kroners, or around 42,000 euros. But of course, depending on country and market, prices will vary. So if you want to drop a comment down below what country you are from and what the starting price of the EV6 is, that will be much appreciated. And at the very top end of the spectrum, it will be offered in the EV6 GT, which will have dual electric motors, 4-wheel drive, and 585 horsepower. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour should be in around 3.7 seconds. Here in Norway, again, that car will start at around 600,000 kroners, around 60,000 euros. And again, drop a comment down below of the EV6 pricing and your country, if you will. That is much appreciated. The car I'm sitting in is the EV6 long-range all-wheel drive GT line. So GT line means it's the top trim. Long range, it has the big battery pack, 77.4 kilowatt hours, and all-wheel drive dual electric motors, 325 horsepower. This thing is quick enough, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.2 seconds, and it feels that quick. WLTP range of this car is around 484 kilometers, and if you go for the rear-wheel drive version with this battery pack, you're gonna get like close to 530. Testing I have done has shown that on the motorway, cold winter conditions as we have now, you're going to get around 300 kilometers of range. Again, link to the range test, motorway range test, in the description box down below. When it comes to charging, Kia claimed that this long-range all-wheel drive version will do 10 to 80% in around 18 minutes with a peak speed of 239 kilowatts. Unfortunately, under the conditions we have now in December, I've not been able to get close to that 239 peak speed. I think I peaked at around 200 kilowatts, and that's in all the testing I have done. I've driven this car like a few thousand kilometers and maybe done like 10 charging sessions already at 200, 300, and 350 kilowatt chargers, and I have not been able to get close to that speed with the temperatures we've had outside. So testing I've done has shown, 10 to 80%. The quickest I've done is around half an hour. So in wintertime, cold conditions, that is what you can expect. The driver's display is 12.3 inches and the infotainment screen is also 12.3 inches. This car, being the GT line, also has the head-up display, which also features augmented reality. I mean, it works fine enough, though I do find it a bit blurry and unclear, so I've actually turned it off while driving. The screens here, though, are nice, bright, and clear. I have nothing to complain about when it comes to the resolution and the graphics. Also, refresh rate seems to be nice. You can control it via the buttons here on the steering wheel, so you have a few different views here, and then you can change between your compass. You have some information, and then you have your speed limit and stuff like that, adaptive cruise control. But what it is lacking is a map view. I would wish it had a map view and would be a little bit more customizable, because I think it's just a little bit waste of real estate having all of these inches and not being able to show a map. You of course do have map view here, and you do get prompts from navigation both on the screen here if you have it chosen, and also here on the head-up display. But I like maps in front of the driver, and I wish this car did that. It does not. The infotainment system, though, is not the best. It has a lot of icons, and it's not always the easiest and most intuitive to use. Though it is snappy enough, it's easy to use, it's reliable, and you have your home button up here, which I find a little bit strange placed, and always defaults to this screen here, so you have to go into guest. Though it has all the information you need, though. And if you go home, you go to the navigation screen here, map. The graphics are not one of my favorite. It looks old, it looks dated, it's just not very pleasant to look at. And also, navigating somewhere, you press here, and also it's not always the quickest. So let's say we want to go to Bergen, right? And this is kind of an essential thing I want to show you guys. So if I press Bergen, it's going to search, of course, and that's nice, and then set its destination. It's calculating. Takes a little bit of time. Come on. Let's go. And then it shows you battery charge is insufficient to reach the destination. Visit the charging station along the route. So this does not have a built-in navigation or route planner. It does not have a built-in route planner, which is super strange and annoying. This being a dedicated EV platform, 800-volt architecture with all the features this car has, this is not one of the features, or having a route planner, which is very strange. So you have to do a manual search. And if you just press OK, it will show you that. And then again with the navigation, you have to press one more time to start the guidance. So it's just a bit annoying and cumbersome to use. It's not the nicest. You can see here the graphics just aren't the best. It's not always the best to respond. It's not among the worst, but it's just not my favorite infotainment system. There are much better infotainment systems out there from Polestar, Tesla, Audi, Skoda. It's fine enough. It's not a deal breaker, but it's absolutely something to consider and to know about. Though information here like your battery percentage and your range and all of that is very nice and very welcome. It has all the information. It's just not the best and easiest to use. By no means is the EV6 perfect, and in my opinion, none of these mid-size electric SUVs are perfect, far from. Most of them have some huge compromises that you have to live with. Even my favorite one, the Mustang Mach-E, does not charge very fast. It has a peak speed of 150 kilowatts, but immediately after a few minutes, it will throttle down to like 115 kilowatts. That means going from 10 to 80% in that car will take like 45 minutes. That is a huge compromise. And in my opinion, the EV6 may be the electric SUV in the midsize segment with the least compromise. It takes the good things from the Ioniq 5, but it eliminates, the bad seats, in my opinion. It makes the drive a little bit more sporty and interesting. And in my opinion, I think this looks better. This is one of the best looking electric SUVs on the market today. It's one of the best driving. It has a nice interior for the price point. I mean, this is not a luxurious vehicle, and it is practical enough. The trunk is almost 500 liters, though the frunk is laughable. It has a large cabin, large rear seats, large front seats, and is very practical. And getting this performance at this price point with this equipment, the fast charging, the good range, lowish consumption, I am very impressed. And I think this car may just have stolen the throne in my heart of being the best electric midsize SUV on the market. So guys, let me know what you think down below of the EV6 and what is your favorite electric SUV. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always guys, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.